Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world one book at a time. When we think of major historical figures, we often picture them as these unchanging statues, defined by one single powerful idea. But the story of Malcolm X, well, it's completely different. His journey is one of the most incredible, most radical transformations you'll ever read about. And honestly, it's his capacity for change that makes his life such a critical lesson for us today. So, to really understand the man he became, we've got to start at the very beginning, with the world that shaped him as a young boy named Malcolm Little. And let me tell you, it was a world that taught him about race in America through some really direct, really brutal experiences. This wasn't something he just read about in a history book. In his autobiography, he talks about his life beginning under the shadow of the KKK. Think about that for a second. Before he was even born, his family was being targeted because his father was organizing for Black self-reliance. That kind of experience, well, it sets the stage for everything that comes next. And this is our source for this explainer. This is his story, told in his own words. It's just so raw and honest, and it really gets to the why behind his beliefs. It's not just about what he thought, but how the systems all around him shaped his thinking every step of the way. So, his early life was just filled with tragedy and exclusion. His father was murdered, his family fell apart, and society was constantly telling him that his dreams were worthless because he was Black. All of that pushed him into a life of crime, and that life eventually landed him in the one place that would change him forever: prison. You can literally track his transformation through the names he carried. He starts as Malcolm Little, then he's the street hustler known as Detroit Red, and then he becomes the disciplined, powerful minister Malcolm X. Each name is like a whole new worldview, a completely different way of seeing himself and his place in the world. Because in prison, he found the Nation of Islam. And for him, it was so much more than a religion. It was a complete, all-encompassing system that finally explained all the injustice he'd seen his entire life. It gave him structure, it gave him discipline, and it gave him a brand new, powerful identity. And this is what's so fascinating. Malcolm explains that for him, and for so many other Black men in prison, this idea wasn't some abstract theory. It wasn't just hate speech. No, it was a perfect, almost chilling description of their actual lived reality. A reality that had been defined by oppression at the hands of a white system. So Malcolm X becomes the Nation of Islam's most powerful voice. He was their star. But while he was inspiring millions on the outside, a crisis was brewing on the inside. It would eventually lead to a really painful break with the entire organization he had helped build. And this break sets him on a journey, a pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca. He went there searching for some spiritual clarity, but what he found was something else entirely, something that would completely redraw the map of his world. It's like the lens he'd been looking through for over a decade suddenly changed color. That rigid black and white framework he had, it was just flooded with this whole spectrum of humanity he never, ever thought was possible. And the change is wow. It's just staggering when you hear it in his own words. Before Mecca, his whole world revolved around the American white man's society. But after, he's talking about this incredible feeling of brotherhood with people of all colors, even white Muslims, all united by faith, not divided by race. So here's the key. This wasn't just him changing tactics. This was a fundamental shift in his whole philosophy. And he says it himself, the experience forced him to rearrange his thinking. He moved from a fixed, rigid ideology to an open-minded search for truth. And what's so tragic is that his assassination in 1965 cut this final chapter of his life short. He was just getting started building a new kind of movement based on this bigger, more inclusive vision. But in the end, it was the transformation itself that became his most powerful, most enduring legacy. So let's just look at this incredible arc. He went from racial separatism to human brotherhood. He moved from a locked-in ideology to a constant search for truth. He went from seeing race as the great divider to seeing all of humanity as one. And his anger, which was once a destination in itself, became a catalyst, an engine for change, but not the final stop.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? I think it's that his story isn't about being right all the time. It's about the process of becoming. It shows us that real strength isn't about sticking to your guns no matter what, but having the courage to tear down your own beliefs when you encounter a deeper truth.
And that's the question his life really leaves us with, isn't it? If one person, shaped by the absolute worst of American racism, could change his own mind so profoundly, then what does that say about the possibility for our collective systems, our societies, our institutions to transform too?
This explainer was based on excerpts from the Autobiography of Malcolm X, as told to Alex Haley.
Crisis in Perception is free to watch and listen to. Supporters on Patreon help fund the research and production that make this work possible.
For the full long-form deep dive into this book and its ideas, follow the link in the description. If you enjoy these explainers, please subscribe and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.